She shared. A queen recognizes when to leave a table when respect is no longer offered. After she created a scene and left the restaurant, I responded, Bon appetit. I then took care of my family's meals and provided the manager with her name for the unpaid bill. Later, when the police visited her apartment to charge her with theft, my ex, whom I'll refer to as Serafina for this tale, didn't merely live her life, she orchestrated it. Her entire existence was a constant branding campaign for a product no one was actually buying, herself. Every small inconvenience, personal shortcoming, and moment of basic human conflict was quickly processed, filtered, and shared on social media, often with a quote so deep it could have been embroidered onto a decorative pillow. If she was late for a date, it wasn't due to poor time management. It was because, as she would later post, a woman who understands her value doesn't hurry for anyone. If she splurged her rent money on a ridiculously priced handbag, it wasn't a sign of financial irresponsibility. In her view, it was a courageous move to invest in her happiness. She had a saying for everything. It felt like dating a living, breathing Etsy store. For 2 years, I convinced myself this was an endearing quirk. I was in love, and love can make you foolish. I'm a straightforward guy, a civil engineer who designs bridges connecting 2 points with stable, reliable structures. Serafina's role, as far as I could see, was to create chaos and then find a quote to frame it as empowerment. In hindsight, we weren't a great match. The beginning of the end arrived when I decided it was time for her to meet my family. This was a step I had delayed, not out of shame, but out of fear for them. My family is the complete opposite of Serafina, a quiet, lovely, and very normal group from the suburbs. My dad considers a wild time trying a new fertilizer for his roses. My mom is passionate about discovering exciting chicken recipes, and my sister Lisa, a high school science teacher, communicates mostly through dry sarcasm. They are wonderful people, and I knew introducing Serafina to them would be like letting a peacock into a chicken coop. There would be a lot of noise, feathers, and someone would get pecked. But we were serious, or so I thought, and this felt like the next logical step. Serafina treated the announcement like she was invited to a state dinner at Buckingham Palace. Meeting the family, she said, a thoughtful expression on her face. This is a significant energetic exchange. I need to prepare. I must ensure my aura is properly shielded. Her preparation included 3 days of watching self-help gurus on YouTube, a new and alarmingly pricey dress, and a solid hour of humming cross-legged on our living room floor. I prepared by taking 2 aspirin and preemptively texting my sister to apologize. The venue selected was a nice Italian restaurant, neutral ground, neither too fancy nor too casual, the kind of place with cloth napkins but no dress code. I thought it was the safest choice. I was mistaken. The first 20 minutes were a masterclass in awkwardness. My dad tried to chat with Serafina about the traffic. She responded by saying she doesn't believe in traffic as it's a manifestation of collective anxiety. My dad, who has commuted on the same highway for 40 years, just blinked slowly and took a long sip of water. My mom, bless her, attempted to find common ground. That's a lovely necklace, Serafina, she said with a warm smile. Serafina touched the crystal around her neck. Thank you, she said, her voice dropping into a low mystical tone. It's a piece of raw tourmaline. It absorbs negative energy and helps ground my spiritual frequency. It's essential for an empath like me. The world can be quite loud. My sister Lisa, observing this exchange with the keen interest of a biologist studying a new species, chimed in. Wow, her voice dripping with mock sincerity. Does it work on Wi-Fi signals too? The reception in my classroom is awful. Serafina did not appreciate the joke. A tiny frown line appeared between her brows. The queen was not amused, but the tipping point came with the main course. My mother, in her gentle manner, turned to Serafina and asked the question that would trigger chaos. So, Serafina, she said while cutting into her chicken, Tom tells us you're a creative consultant, which sounds fascinating. What exactly do you consult on? It was a perfectly normal question, a nice way to get to know her. But in Serafina's world, it was treason. She interpreted my mother's genuine curiosity as a challenge to her authority, a cross-examination of her very being. Her smile tightened, and she placed her fork down with a delicate click. What I do, she began, her voice suddenly icy, is help brands align their narratives with their authentic, energetic truth. I cultivate vibes. I manage perceptions. It's not something that can be easily explained to those accustomed to a more traditional existence. The implied "you people" was silent but deafening. My dad shifted in his seat, my mom's smile faltered, and Lisa raised her eyebrows, silently asking me, "And you chose this?" "Oh," my mom said, clearly flustered. "That's nice." Serafina wasn't finished. "It's more than nice," she leaned forward. "It's essential, but it requires mutual respect and understanding, an open mind. I can sense when a space isn't conducive to that. I can feel it." With that, she pushed her chair back, its legs scraping against the floor. She stood tall, her posture regal and offended. The entire restaurant fell silent. She announced to the room that she had been incredibly patient, that she had tried to connect, but she could not and would not subject her spirit to an environment of judgment and negativity. She grabbed her tiny, useless purse from the table. "I wish you all the best on your life journeys," she said, turning to leave. She exited the restaurant like a magnificent, self-important galleon sailing out of a very confused harbor, leaving behind a half-eaten plate of lobster ravioli for stunned family members and me sitting there with a deep, gut-wrenching dread. For a moment, no one spoke. Then my sister Lisa cleared her throat. "Well," she said, lifting her wine glass. "She certainly knows how to make an exit. 10 out of 10 for drama, 0 out of 10 for sanity." I was mortified and started to apologize profusely, but my dad held up a hand. "It's not your fault, son," he said quietly. "You can't control the weather." In that moment of public humiliation, my phone buzzed in my pocket with a new notification. I pulled it out, my hands trembling slightly with adrenaline. It was a new post from Serafina. Of course, she had probably composed it during the ride home. It was a selfie, artfully framed to appear pensive and strong. The caption, predictably, read, "A queen knows when to exit a table when respect is no longer being served." I stared at the post, watching likes trickle in from her online followers. "So brave. Protect your peace, girl." "Yes, queen." They cheered on her tantrum, validating her delusion, and something inside me snapped. The part of me that had made excuses for her, that had translated her nonsense into something acceptable, withered and died. She wasn't a quirky free spirit. She was a narcissistic child in an adult's body. I was done. Done cleaning up her messes. Done being the stable foundation for her chaotic theme park. I looked at her post again, saw the quote about the table and respect, and with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years, I typed my reply. A single comment, short and sweet. "Bon appetit." Then I put my phone away. The turning point was over. It was time for the execution. I called the waiter over, a young guy who looked like he had just witnessed a car crash. "We're ready for the bill," I said calmly. "But just to clarify, there will be 5 people on the bill, but only 4 of us are paying." The waiter looked confused. The restaurant manager, a stern-looking man named Mr. Rossi, approached. I explained the situation simply. "The woman who was sitting here," I said, pointing to Serafina's empty chair, "is my girlfriend, or I suppose my ex-girlfriend now. She caused that scene and left without paying for her meal. My family and I will pay for our 4 meals right now. Her meal, the $28 lobster ravioli, is her responsibility." Mr. Rossi frowned. "Sir, if she's with your party, I understand." I interrupted politely, "But she made it very clear she's no longer with our party. She exited the table after all. However, I want to be helpful. I'm happy to provide you with her full name and home address, so you can send her the bill directly. I wouldn't want your restaurant to be out of pocket because of her dramatic dining habits." I took out a pen and wrote her full name, Serafina Rosemont, and our shared apartment address on a napkin, sliding it across the table. Rossi looked at the napkin, then at me, recognizing my seriousness. He nodded curtly. "Very well," he said. I paid for our meals and left a $50 tip for the waiter, writing, "I'm so sorry," on the receipt. Then I took my family home. The next day brought a predictable flood of texts from Serafina. She was enraged about my bon appetit comment, calling it passive-aggressive and disrespectful. She accused me of siding with my family against her and demanded an apology. She had no idea what was coming. She genuinely believed the extent of my retaliation was a sarcastic 2-word comment. She thought she had triumphed. The fallout arrived 2 days later while I was at work. I received a call from a hysterical Serafina. It wasn't just crying, it was a full-blown screeching meltdown. "They're here," she screamed into the phone. "The police are at my door. You called the cops on me, you psycho." I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Serafina, calm down. What are you talking about? 2 police officers are here. They said the restaurant filed a report. They're charging me with theft. Theft over a plate of ravioli. This is your fault. You did this. I almost felt a twinge of sympathy, almost. But I pictured her standing up at that table insulting my family, and the feeling vanished. Let me be very clear, I said, my voice as calm as a frozen lake. I did not call the police. I paid for my meal and my family's meals. I did not, however, pay for yours. You ordered it, you ate most of it, and then you left without paying. In the real world, that's not a brave act of self-respect. It's a crime. It's called theft of services or defrauding an innkeeper. The restaurant, being a business that expects to be compensated for its goods and services, called the police. This isn't my fault, Serafina. This is the natural logical consequence of your actions. She was momentarily speechless, sputtering with rage. But you were supposed to handle it. You were supposed to just pay. Why? I asked, genuinely curious. Why was I supposed to do that? Because that's what a boyfriend does. He takes care of things. No, I replied. A partner should treat their other partner and their family with respect. A customer should pay for their food. You failed at both. I just stopped being your safety net. You exited the table. Remember, you can't exit a table and still expect someone at that table to pay for your meal. I heard a muffled voice in the background. One of the police officers telling her they needed her to come outside. I have to go, she whispered, her voice filled with a fear that was immensely satisfying. They're taking me to the station. She hung up. I later learned she wasn't arrested, but was charged and given a summons to appear in court. She had to hire a lawyer, and the entire ordeal cost her over $2,000 in legal fees, all to resolve a $28 bill she could have simply paid. The charge was eventually dismissed after she paid a fine and wrote a humiliating apology letter to the restaurant. She attempted to reach out to me a few more times, her texts a mix of threats to sue me for emotional distress and desperate pleas for help with her legal fees. I ignored them all. I had already moved my things out of the apartment while she was busy dealing with her newfound status as a lobster-stealing fugitive. About a week later, when everything had calmed down, I enjoyed a quiet Sunday dinner at my parents' house. It was peaceful. We ate roast chicken, and my dad talked about his roses. At one point, my sister Lisa looked at me, a mischievous glint in her eye. So, she said, any new queens in your life? I laughed a genuine laugh. No, I replied. I think I'm officially retiring from royal court duties. Later that evening, out of morbid curiosity, I checked her social media one last time. She had posted a new quote, a picture of a lone wolf howling at the moon. The caption read, "The strongest hearts have the most scars." I just shook my head and smiled. I blocked her number and her profile. Taking a deep breath of the quiet, normal, drama-free air, I felt the scent of freedom. It tasted much better than lobster ravioli.